Alrighty guys, we have finally made it to the end of chapter 5 and I'm going to show you your final project that you're going to be working on with me. So this is going to be a fun one. We're going to do a fluid logo reveal. This is going to be pretty interesting and you're going to learn a lot about fluid physics in this tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by adding a cube like I usually do. Now we're of course going to need a couple of things. We're going to need a 3D logo, we're going to need our domain, and our fluid flow source. So I'm going to utilize this cube for almost all of those things. Going to go ahead and duplicate our cube. Now this one on the right will be our domain. If I were you guys, I would just name everything so you can easily keep track of it. This cube will be our flow source, so I'm just going to name it flow. And I'm going to go into wireframe mode up here so that we can easily see everything. I'm going to scale our cube up quite a bit. And I think I'm going to scale it up so much that it's much bigger than the cube here. I'll try to center it the best I can. This looks great. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit, and this will make sense in a moment. So now we have our cube, which is going to be like the pool that the water fills into. And then we have our cube within that cube that's going to be our flow source. I'm going to scale this down. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to go ahead and add a fluid property to this. Type is going to be flow. Instead of smoke, we're going to choose liquid. And then instead of geometry, we're going to choose inflow. Now I'm actually going to place this sort of towards the corner here. Just make sure it's still inside the domain. That looks good right about there. And then click on our domain, add in your fluid, type, domain, and then instead of gas, we're going to choose liquid. Now, what we need to do is just bake this out for a second so we can see that everything's working properly. I'll keep my resolution divisions at 32, but we are going to be raising that later before we bake. I'm going to scroll all the way down to our cache settings. Instead of replay, I'm going to choose all, and then for our frames, I'll just bake this out to 100. Go ahead and click on bake all. And you'll see it's running through quite quickly. And let's go ahead and take a look. And there we go. We have our fluid flowing properly. Now remember, there's a mesh checkbox right here. So if you don't want that yet, you don't have to have that. I prefer it because I think it's easier to visualize, but it's up to you guys. Now, right now, the fluid just hits the floor and it goes all over the place. And that's fine. That's what we want for now because that's all we've set up. I want to set up a hidden logo that's revealed as the fluid fills up the scene. So let's go ahead and click on our fluid and let's click free all. Now we're back to our domain. Let's create just a fun little logo out of text. I'm going to go up here to add. I'm going to go to text and we have our text. Now in order to actually edit this text, I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to press backspace and I'm just going to put Blender in all caps. And I just type that out. When you're done, press tab again. Now let's go ahead to our text data options down here. And there's going to be a little checkbox, or sorry, a little drop down that says geometry. We're going to click on extrude, and we're going to extrude this just a bit here. All right, that looks pretty good. Right click when you're happy with it. Go ahead and click on convert to mesh. And now we have a mesh object. And just to show you, if we bring this outside of our domain and we go to solid view, this is now a mesh object. I'm going to go back to wireframe mode. I'm going to go to my top down view. I'm going to scale this out quite a bit. And I'm going to bring it towards the bottom of our scene. Now, if you remember correctly from our previous tutorials, we can enable a collision object. That is exactly what we're going to do for this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this logo. I'm going to scale it up on the Z-axis quite a bit. And I'm actually going to make sure that it does go through the bottom of our floor here, which it looks like it is. And we're going to go ahead to our physics properties. We're going to add a fluid type, but instead of domain or flow, we're going to choose effector. And we should be good to go. Now let's go ahead and bake this out and let's just see if our fluid is interacting in a basic way with our logo. Go ahead and click on bake all. Now if we're lucky, the fluid should be flowing at least around our logo. And is it? Let's go ahead and take a look in solid view. It looks like it is a little bit, but we're going to need to adjust some of our collision options because you can see it's going straight through our logo right here and we definitely don't want that. So let's go ahead and free all. All right, let's go back to wireframe mode. Let's click on our logo. And then for our surface thickness, let's just choose 0.1 for right now. And let's go ahead and rebake and let's see what results we get. Now, this may take some experimenting, so we may have to come back once I get the right results. All right, let's go back to solid view. And it looks like we are still getting some clipping here. However, you can see our fluid is indeed interacting with our surface, which is great. Let's try a surface thickness of 1. I'll go back to wireframe mode after I clear my bake. I'll choose a surface thickness of 1, and then I'll simply rebake one more time, and let's see what results we get. Now remember, the higher the value, the greater the external surface thickness is, which means Blender's going to say, okay, the edge of your surface is out here now compared to right on the actual surface. Let's go to a solid view and let's play this back. All right, so our fluid flows in, and you can see that this is working exactly the way we want it to. So you can see that the fluid is starting to actually flow accurately around our object. I'm going to try one more value, and then I want to mention the fact that the higher the resolution is for our fluid flow, the better results we're going to get. So let's go ahead and free our bake one more time. Let's go back to wireframe view. Let's click on our text, and let's try a value of 0.5 for our surface thickness. Now I'm going to go ahead and click again on our cube. That is our domain. And I think I'm going to raise my resolution to, how about 50? Let's try something a little bit higher. Let's go ahead and click on bake, and you can see it's running through the bake right now. Now we should get a slightly better result here. Here we go, it's almost done. And here we go. Awesome. All right, so we're getting a higher quality result. And if we go to our solid view, you can see that these gaps are getting filled much better here because now our resolution is not only higher, but our surface thickness is getting close to what we want it to be. You can see that some particles are getting inside some of the letters. If we want to fix that, all we have to do is increase the height of our logo. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to rebake at a higher resolution. So I'm going to click on Free All. I'm going to save this real quick, go back to wireframe mode. I'm going to scale this up on the Z-axis a lot, like that. That way the water can't get inside of our logo. In fact, I'm going to scale it up even more. Now let's go ahead and click on our domain. I'm going to go ahead and bring our fluid source down a little bit so that it fills up quicker. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to raise our resolution to 150. And I'm going to click bake, and then we're going to come right back as soon as it's done. Alrighty, so our bake is done, and it took quite a while, probably about 15 minutes, but you can see the results are, well, they're incredible. And this is what you get with a higher resolution for fluid physics simulations. All right, so we're gonna go into solid view here because I want to show you guys what this looks like. Now, obviously, we're gonna be hiding this logo because we don't want the logo to be seen. It's revealed with the water itself. So I'm gonna click on this logo and press H, and you can see that the logo is actually revealed. Now, again, the higher the quality of the fluid simulation and the closer you get your surface thickness, the better result you're gonna get. Regardless, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. I would give this a quick save if you just waited for that bake. I'm gonna go ahead and play this back. I'm gonna make our end frame 100, and I'm just gonna play this back so we can see what this reveal looks like. And then we're gonna add some materials and go into rendered view. Now, you'll notice I'm getting about 4 frames a second here. That's not very good, but when you render this out, you'll be able to play it back in your video sequencer and it'll look great. This looks really, really cool. And this is really fun to do, especially if you're trying to make a logo for a client project. Let's go ahead and add some materials, some lighting, and let's see what we can make this thing really look like. Let's go over to our rendered view. All right, now, again, this is really, really PC intensive, so keep that in mind. I'm also going to click and make sure that everything looks good. We're good, the domain looks good. We're gonna go ahead and add an HDRI in here. I'm gonna add, instead of a color, I'm gonna choose this little dot, choose environment texture. I'm gonna click on open. I'm gonna go over to my HDRIs, and this is where I get to choose any lighting that I want. Let's go ahead and take a look here. There's a lot to choose from. I think I'll choose this one. All right, this looks good. Now I'm gonna add a floor, so I'm gonna go to add mesh plane. I'm gonna scale that floor up. I'm gonna make sure that it's right below our liquid here. That looks good. I'm then gonna click on the liquid. I'm gonna go to our materials property, give this another quick save. I'm gonna also make sure my screencast keys are enabled, which I think they are. Probably might not be able to see them in viewport, that's okay. Let's click on a new material. And then instead of principal BSDF, we're gonna choose glass BSDF. I'm gonna go ahead and lower this roughness. And then for our IOR, I'll choose 1.33. Oops, 1.33. And then for the color, I think I'll do something like a lighter blue. Maybe something like that. And then as you can see from the top, you can start to see what this is gonna look like. We're gonna need to lower our floor a little bit. I like to go underneath of my object to make sure it's not clipping through. GZ to move it. And you want it to be barely touching the surface. That looks a lot better. And now you can clearly read the words right here. Now what I'm gonna do next is I'm either gonna make the floor orange, black, or kind of a metallic color. So let's go ahead and click on our new material. And let's see if we can just add maybe like a darker color. That's not bad. Let's see what orange would look like. Orange isn't terrible. That doesn't look that bad. Not terrible. We could go at that. Let's go ahead and set up a camera and see what we can do. Now remember, our flow object, we're going to go ahead and hide that. We don't need to see that, right? We only want to see the water. Now, I think what I'll do next is I'll probably go ahead and add in a camera to our scene. I'm going to go back to our solid view. I'm going to go to Add Camera. All right, remember, we're always getting to there through our Add menu. Now, I'm just moving this around so I can place my camera. I like to set everything to 0. So all of our rotational values, I set those to 0. And you can see our camera is actually exactly where we want it. We just need to move it up in our scene and then snap to it so we can see what we're looking at. And we're actually almost perfectly placed. When you're in camera view, if you press G, you can move your camera around like this. Now let's go ahead and see what we're looking at here. All right, so this is kind of our view right now. Now I actually kind of liked what we had before with the darker background, so I think I'm going to go with a low saturation, kind of darker gray. And then I think what I'm going to do is find lighting that works really well for this situation. So what I'm probably going to do is set up my own light source. So let's go ahead and click on Add Light, and I'll just do an area light for now. I'll go ahead and move it off to the side here. You can see it's right here. I'll go ahead and give it 100 for the value. I'm going to go ahead and scale it way, way, way up. Maybe 1,000. Let's give it 1,000. All right, now let's see what this looks like now. All right, now we're getting somewhere here. Let's go ahead and snap to camera view. All right, not bad. I'm also going to click on camera view, and I'm going to make sure that my pass part out value is very high so I can clearly see what I'm looking at here. Now for my focal length, I'm currently set to 50. I might go ahead and back that up a little bit. I think that looks good. I want to show you the difference. This is an orthographic perspective. If this is what you're going for, that's fine too. You can really get a clear-cut view of what that's going to look like. This is looking really cool so far. I'm very happy with how this is turning out. Now don't forget, you can add really any lighting you want. I think what I like to do is I normally, and I said we're not going to go out of the layout view tab, but I'm going to go up to the animation tab real quick. I'm going to snap to my camera over here by pressing Z. All right, and what I want to do is have a split view. I want my render to be right here, and I want to experiment with my light source over here. As I move and rotate my light source, you'll notice we get a different effect. If I put my light source lower, we get a completely different effect. If I put it higher, we just get a completely different effect here. And I also want to mess with the value. I think I want 3,000. You can see we can get some nice crisp contrast there. I think I'll set it back to 2,000. And this is kind of where you get to experiment with what you think looks best. I think I might also make it a rectangular one and scale it down on the Z-axis. That way we get sort of these highlights in here. And this is looking really, really awesome. Last thing I'm going to do is probably mess with the color a little bit more of our bottom surface. You can make it brighter if you choose to do so. You can pretty much do whatever you want with this. This looks great. I love how this turned out. And what's really cool is we can snap to any frame and we can see how the logo begins to form over time. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bigger so you guys can see that. See how our logo starts to form? So when you play this back and you actually render this out, this is going to look super awesome. Don't forget your light source. You can make this whatever you want. You can put the light source wherever you want. If you think it looks better up high, that's fine. You have your physics simulations. Now all you have to do is render this out and it's going to look really, really good. One last touch that I'll add is I'll go to our camera. I'll just enable our depth of field, and then I think I'll select our plane here, and that looks pretty good. It might be subtle for you guys on your end, but for me, I can clearly see. I'll go ahead and just zoom in so you can really see this. You can clearly see how the edges now begin to become blurred, and we have this amazing focused. I mean, this looks really good. I'm going to render this out so that I can show it in the course trailer, but this looks fantastic. And then for render settings, I'll just quickly go over those because I know you guys are probably curious. Light paths, I usually set those all to 20. That's totally up to you guys. It depends on your computer. Max samples, I might set that to like 50. And then I'll just make sure my motion blur is enabled. Typically that adds to the render. It makes it look a lot better and more realistic. And then for color management down here, I'll typically choose medium high contrast. You can see how much that gets bumped up. And then what's great is you can choose any color combination you want for this. And the higher quality physics simulation you have, the better results you're going to get. And I think this looks fantastic already. And then I'll just click render real quick. We'll just see how long one frame takes. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that you have to make sure your logo is disabled for the render, because I know it's I don't even have to look at it right now. I already know that it's showing because I didn't disable it for the render. So as you can see right here on the right hand panel, make sure that your flow is disabled and your text. Again, that's that little camera icon in your hierarchy. That way you don't accidentally render something that you don't need in your scene. Now when we render this out now, and I think we're at 1080 by 1080 or 1000 by 1000, we're going to get a really nice result. You can see it's going to take about 15 seconds or so here. What I would do if I were you guys is I would just render this out as a PNG sequence. I have a YouTube tutorial on that if you ever want to check that out. There's also plenty on YouTube as well. But this looks great. I would probably render it at a little bit higher of a sample count, but overall, for the amount of work that we just put in, which was maybe less than, what, 10, 15 minutes, this is looking fantastic. I think it turned out great. So let me know what you guys end up doing. Pick out a logo online, convert it to a 3D object, make sure that it's hidden in rendered and viewport mode, render out your animation and your physics simulation, and make sure you set that value for your resolution very high so that you get an amazing result. Don't forget to record your screen, show me what you guys are working on. Good luck. This is where we started to get into the more challenging physics simulations. If you run into any issues, just reach out to me. All right, guys, good luck. Have fun with the project.